Something on my chin. Look, so I sat at my laptop to do some work for my business, and I saw this article that came across the screen that I want to share with you all. So come in, hit that like and share button. I did get my workout in, so I don't want you all to be concerned that I am neglecting my body. So I got that workout in. The gym was hot. Uh, the air conditioning unit was out, and they said that because of the shipping supply chain, that they could not get um, the parts in for the air conditioning unit. So thank you for the person on my live stream that was concerned earlier that I would neglect my body. But let's get into this. This is rather a little later than my normal live stream. Again, just want to share this. I haven't even read all of it yet. I saw the title and I'm like, let's go live. We want to read it together. Fauci admits that the COVID-19 vaccine does not protect overly well against infection. You all also make sure you hit the thumbs up because and share the video. Usually when you live stream about topics like this, it is suppressed a lot. Um, so let's read the article again. We are reading it together live. Um, we're reading it together. I haven't read it yet, so let's go through it. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci conceded that the COVID-19 vaccines do not protect overly well against the infection. Today on Your World, this is only 54 seconds, so let's see if I can um, pull that video back up. I think another video popped up. But vaccinated patients with blood cancers are at high risk of breakthrough COVID and any other cancers. Vaccinated patients with blood cancers are at higher risk of breakthrough COVID and any other cancers. Study says, let me read that a third time. Vaccinated patients with blood cancers are at a higher risk of breakthrough COVID than any other cancers, okay? One of the things that's clear from the data is that even though vaccines, because of the high degree of transmissible or transmissibility of this virus, don't protect overly well, as it were, against the infection, they protect quite well against severe disease leading to hospitalization and death. Mm. And I believe that's the reason, Neil, why at my age, being vaccinated and boosted, even though it didn't protect me against the infection, I feel confident that it made a major role in protecting me from progressing to severe disease. I'm not even going to add my input, but I do talk to people in the medical field and I ask them questions about what are the most patients do they see in the hospitals, right? Is it the ones that got the vaccine, the ones that didn't? But I'm not going to say that answer because I don't want this video to get flagged. And I'm reading it directly from Fox News. Now, some people don't even believe in Fox News, but this is why I wanted to really pull up the interview and hear his words coming from his mouth. At any rate, however, it says it didn't protected me from progressing to severe disease, and that's very likely why I had a relative mild course. So my message to people who seem confused because people who are vaccinated get infected, right? The answer is if you weren't vaccinated, the likelihood that you will have a more severe cause or course if you were vaccinated. Okay, so here's the story again. Let me try to rewind this. and let you all hear it. Again, I'm reading right from the article, so um, just thought it was something interesting to share. Because sooner or later, the truth always come out. It may be years later, 2, 3, but it always comes out. So let's see. Let's listen in. Okay.
For at least another week right now as COVID cases begin to flare up there. 25 million Shanghai residents, by the way, are separately being asked to be retested to see if things are spreading there as well. And we're seeing limited movement in Hong Kong on the same story. So it's repeating itself in Asia. It's jarring those who thought that at least we were over this. At least there, that is not the case. And there are spikes in cases here as well. Dr. Anthony Fauci knows of what I speak. He had to endure COVID himself and a pretty bad case of it. The White House chief medical advisor joining us now. Doctor, good to have you. How are you feeling?
I'm doing real well, Neil. Thank you for asking. I'm actually fully recovered and I'm essentially back to normal. Thank goodness.
Now, you were, being treated again. Was there a flare up after the flare up? What was going on there?
Well, what happened is I was initially infected, and given my age, at being a risk person at my age, I took Paxlovid,
right,
and it successfully diminished the symptoms pretty effectively. And then when I finished the course, I tested myself on a Monday. I was negative, Tuesday negative, Wednesday negative, but then on Thursday, it reverted back to positive. So simultaneously with that, literally within 12 hours, I started to get a return of symptoms with fever, with aches, with some little bit of a cough, not very bad. So I went back on Paxlovid for another 5 days. That cleared things up very well. And now I've been negative for multiple days since then. So I'm doing very well, thanks.
Let me ask you about this, because when people heard, oh my gosh, this happened, to Dr. Anthony Fauci, everyone knows someone who's gotten this again, and sometimes again after that, and they're beginning to wonder about the regimen for treating it. Whether you get 2 vaccination shots, whether you get a booster, another booster, they just don't know. What do you tell them?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify it, Neil. There's no doubt that the vaccines themselves, particularly vaccine plus a booster at the appropriate time when you become eligible for a booster, for more than one booster. If you're over 50 years old, you get eligibility for 2 boosters. One of the things that's clear from the data, that even though vaccines, because of the high degree of transmissibility of this virus, don't protect overly well, as it were, against infection, they protect quite well against severe disease leading to hospitalization and death. And I believe that's the reason, Neil, why at my age, being vaccinated and boosted, even though it didn't protect me against infection, I feel confident that it made a major role in protecting me from progressing to severe disease. And that's very likely why I had a relatively mild course. So my message to people who seem confused because people who are vaccinated get infected, the answer is, if you weren't vaccinated, the likelihood you would have more severe course than you did have when you were vaccinated.
But, there are a lot of people looking at this, especially with this new strain. I can't even keep up with it, doctor, or even know if I'm pronouncing it right, this BA 2.75 or what have you. It always seems to be mutating. It always seems to be spreading. And yet the collective view of the world is we are over this. Time to move on. Time to live our lives. Time to fly again. We're no longer forcing those who are coming in from other countries that they've either been vaccinated or testing negative for the virus itself. So how do you feel about all this?
Well, we are certainly not over it. And I think that, people have an understandable desire to put this in the rearview mirror and say we're through with it. But that's just not the reality, Neil. And when I say that, I don't mean to scare people or to get people feel they have to dramatically alter their lives or do anything with mandating a thing like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about making use of the available interventions that we have. Let me give you an example. 67% of the people in this country are vaccinated. we rank very low among developed and developing nations in the proportion that are vaccinated. Of those who are vaccinated, only about half of them have gotten their first boost. Again, we've got to do better than that. We're giving the virus the opportunity to continue to spread in our community. And if we do simple things, which are not disruptive in any major way, vaccination, boosting, testing. For example, if you're going to go to a function, you want to get tested to make sure you're negative so that if you are infected and you have minimal symptoms, you don't spread it. If you have a vulnerable person in your household, someone who's on chemotherapy or immune compromised, you might want to test regularly to make sure you don't inadvertently bring the virus home to a susceptible person. Those are relatively easy things to do, Neil, and yet we're not doing enough of it. And that's what I'm trying to get the message out. We don't want to disrupt your life. We don't want to force you to do anything, but do some common sense things that have been proven to be effective.
All right. So very quickly then, doctor, if people are realizing, yes, the number of cases have spiked pretty much across the globe, nothing like what's going on in China, but they're not severe cases. They're very few hospitalization cases, although they're spiking as well. That makes Americans in particular say, been there, done that, over that. What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them it's understandable with that attitude, but be careful. We are still having an increase in hospitalizations. We're having many more infections than being recorded. We say it's about 140,000 a day. Those are grossly undercounted because many people who get infected do a home test and don't report it. And we are still at around 300 deaths per day. That is an unacceptably high level, Neil. So although people kind of say, been there, done that, well, we're at a level that is not an acceptable level for us. We've got to do better than that.
All right. I know this was tough on you because you missed your daughter's wedding, at least to be there in person because of this COVID scare. So I hope everything went okay. You're okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine. And thank you for asking, Neil. Really appreciate it.
All right.
I didn't know he missed his daughter's wedding. She could have rescheduled, maybe. Yeah, she didn't want to. Maybe family members were already coming in. So another report, Shanghai COVID cases, that is people told to stockpile for food. So the Shanghai C-19 cases appear to be leveling off following a recent spike, though some resident has been urged to stockpile food and medicines as fear of returning lockdown hang over the city. I have also been telling people it is best to stockpile foods that have long shelf life because the Biden administration has already announced that there will be food shortages and supply chain issues. So take heed to what the government is saying in this scenario as a forewarning. So they said the daily cases also have jumped here from single digits last week and are no longer rising to the latest infections. This is Shanghai's recent spike since June 1st. However, they have been told that they may be headed for another citywide lockdown with a number of apartment blocks and neighborhoods already subject to movement restrictions and remains. And so they have been told to stockpile food. And second thing is the White House is now braces for explosive and damaging inflation report. So the White House is preparing for another bad inflation report after June's skyrocketing energy prices the day before the release of June's much anticipated consumer price index report. White House officials tried to get ahead of likely brushing the numbers by arguing an underlying economic situations than the headline inflation would suggest. Officials told reporters that June experienced the highest gas prices on record and those prices have since moderated, and I see a little dip in my state in gas prices. I think maybe about as much as 40 cents. But gas prices rose $5 per gallon in June for the first time in history, um, in part due to the war in Ukraine. And yeah, gas prices now have fallen 4.66. I do see some gas prices under $3 in my area. So, but the White House is still focusing on core inflation that has volatile food and energy prices stripped out. The inflation has decreased from 6% to 5.7% in June. The personal consumption index is a separation favored by the Federal Reserve, and which dropped. So the Biden administration has also been focusing on how to keep inflation and not just elevate in the United States, but other development. So we do know that the Feds have a meeting in which they could raise interest rates again. I also note that this article also points out that the price of wheat is down by 30% from June, and that high June inflation um, will make higher economic conditions, and so one of their tactics to take control of inflation will be to increase interest rates, which means in turn that it will be harder, more difficult, more harder for the middle class to borrow. Also, mortgage companies and loans are laying off, having massive layoffs from the largest mortgage lender out of California. Also, Gap workers are now preparing for layoffs in Gap stores. And yeah, so they said that they're just falling apart as far as, their earnings, and they have a letting loss of 1.6, 162%. So they are having some layoffs as well. So with that being said, that's about it, right? Um, Oil prices are down, and you do have some industries that are creating more jobs. And speaking of creating more jobs, if you want to double the money that you're already making or earn residual income while you are investing in a tangible asset like silver, visit my website, queenofcoinsilver.com. And if you are a small based business owner, or a small business owner, independent business owner, or you have a job, a W-2 job, and you want to increase the money that you're already making, if you get a paycheck, you could qualify for an instant pay raise within 24 hours. Text the number on the screen if you are open-minded to making more money in this economy, right? So, with that being said, Queen out. You all have a great night.